Hey everybody, welcome back to Feedback Loop. I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Joey.
And this week, the album that we listened to, the album we listened to, the album we enjoyed, I enjoyed, at the very
I was about to say, don't speak for yourself.
I will speak
Jeremy.
for myself as Jeremy, and you will speak for yourself as Joey. We listened to Every Time I Die's latest album, Low Teens. I guess not latest, depending on when you listen to this episode, because their new album is on the brink of releasing. But 2016's Low Teens album by Every Time I Die. I really enjoy this album. And it kind of like, it surprises me how much I enjoy this album because I'm not typically into a lot of like punk music, which is what I would classify this as. Maybe Joey's going to yell at me and tell me I'm completely wrong. But I saw them, they opened for Mastodon and Coheed and Cambria when they came through Louisville a few years back, and I was blown away. And I've listened to this album constantly since then. I really enjoy this album. What you've had experience with Every Time I Die previously, right?
Yeah, I mean, so I used to play a lot of like metal guitar, and I used to play a lot of Guitar Hero. And Every Time I Die had they had a song on one of the first two Guitar Heroes.
Oh, interesting. I don't think I knew that.
I think it was The New Black. But it didn't sound anything like this album. It was
so
pretty
this
different.
album is also, I've been led to believe that this album is fairly distinct. Like this is the band kind of pivoting and going in a newish direction, which kind of makes sense. I mean, again, I saw them with Mastodon and Coheed and Cambria. Coheed and Cambria is obviously a very like prog rock kind of band, and Mastodon has kind of also been pivoting towards more like progressive stuff. So it kind of made sense in that concert. And I don't know, maybe that's why I love this album so much. Maybe it's just a good concert experience, but I don't have any fears, of talking. I feel like Joey's gonna like this. I'm not sitting here in fear, trembling for what Joey's gonna say about track number 1, Fear and Trembling.
Nice. See, I was trying to think of a Fear and Trembling in Las Vegas type deal.
Yeah, that's where my mind always goes as well. Because I mean, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Yeah,
obviously a big pop culture thing. I don't know if that was a basis for the song title, but
in my research I read that it was I guess Keith Buckley. Yeah, like he's an English guy, or not an English guy. What the fuck am I talking about? He's like an English major type dude, like likes books and stuff. Makes sense. And Fear and Trembling is actually, it has something to do with literature. I'm terrible and don't remember.
We are not English majors.
It was okay. It was a book by existentialist philosopher Soren Kierkegaard.
Okay, so just from that, the fact that is something that exists, right? And that Keith Buckley is an English major who's clearly read philosophy things. I feel like this has to be a success for you, right? You have to love this album.
Do I?
You have to. What do you feel about track number 1, Joey?
Okay, I do really like it. Like, I don't know if I quite love it because it didn't hit me in like the deep personal way that a lot of, like, I guess albums that I would put on love, but I think it could get there because I really like the sound of it. Yeah. So you said it sounds like punk. I don't disagree, but
it's like hardcore kind of like.
Yeah, it's like a post-punk, like hardcore punk type deal where I would also consider it like a metalcore type thing where it's like a newer, harder metal as opposed to like heavy metal or any sort of hard rock or anything like that.
When I hear metalcore, I tend to think like newer stuff, like Bring Me the Horizon and kind of like Architects and stuff like that, where it's just like, I don't know, maybe this is just semantics.
I get it in there.
I feel like this in relation to my context of music, again, I haven't listened to a lot of punk music. This is more on the punk end of metal. And like, I mean, I guess there's a lot of like thrash metal and stuff in here too.
Yeah.
But like it feels more on the punk end of things than metalcore for me is much more clean and produced in my experience.
See, the thing about this album and this style that they do, it's mainly the music that gets it for me, where like more specifically the guitar, because like the guitar on Fear and Trembling, it starts off alone, a little bit chunky, and it's playing like this weird kind of off melody, and that that style runs through the whole album, and that's the part that I could see it being kind of like a metalcore. There's parts on the album where the actual metal part of it reminds me of like a southern sludge metal type thing, but it's not quite the sludge is kind of gone, but it's got kind of the same sound, I guess.
Yeah, I guess for relational purposes, they sound like a more punky Mastodon kind of thing, where Mastodon has that like that southern kind of sludge feel, especially in a lot of their older music. But it's I don't know, it feels more raw and visceral for me, which is why I keep calling it punk. But genres aside,
genres aside,
I really do like this album and this track.
Yeah, me too. It's just like, like it starts off with that cool chunky guitar, and then the drums lead in, and the song starts to get thicker, but it still keeps kind of that offbeat like guitar part, but then it's just this very heavy and lumbering intro, and then around the verse is when everything really kicks in and it starts to get like the big heavier metal sound, like it's like a hardcore like punk, and it just like the guitar keeps breaking into the music with these higher register kind of like slams, like it's not, I don't even know how to describe it, but it reminds me of, I guess, metal that I would have heard in like 2007, but the natural progression of it.
Right.
Like it's like a blending of all the popular genres into this one super cool punk metal deal, I guess.
Yeah, it's very groovy. I think it's almost like Rise Against-esque in some of their older stuff.
Yeah.
So maybe it is more like commercial / produced than calling it punk. But yeah, it's there's so much energy in it. And this is something that I complain about a lot, especially in metal. It's just when certain types of metal feel too big or energetic, I tend to trash that. But not in this case. I fucking love it. There's just, I don't know, every time I listen to this album, it's just this constant barrage of like speed and thrash and stuff that I just feel like I have to mosh to. And Keith Buckley's vocals, I fucking love. I don't know what it is about it. It's just, it's so like visceral, and it's expressive, and where like Corbin, it has a very, very good voice at expressing sadness and sorrow. I feel like Keith Buckley kind of hits the same thing, but in a more aggressive, angry way.
Definitely.
Where it just like, God, it makes me feel things. It moves me.
Several times on this album, I described it as like screaming, but it's not like screaming like in a screamo band or
right.
It's actually just
like
screaming.
He's literally just like belting his fucking rage and pain, and it's just, oh God.
And it's awesome.
Yeah, they also musically, a lot of this album and even on this track, there's a lot of like, there's so much good riffage with the guitars. They go wild with the riffs on this on their guitars, and it kind of like, I don't know, it makes me, maybe because I saw them in concert, they're almost like Mastodon-esque riffs at a lot of points, just because there's, I don't know, Mastodon has a ton of great riffs, but like the tone of the guitars, and just like, I don't know, it's got such a nice groove to a lot of the riffs, and that's something that I've noted way too many times in my notes, so I'm going to try not to be super repetitive, but I do, just like, I don't know, there's such a great groove feeling with a lot of the riffs on this album.
Yes, I agree, but I'm going to keep some things for other songs. That way, I don't like just fucking blow out in this first song
and not have anything to say for the rest of the album.
Because
I kind of felt that way with my notes, but we'll see what happens.
There's definitely some even cooler things on this album, but lyrically, this song, it comes in, and I think, like, I tried not to read any of the artist notes and stuff. I just like read the lyrics and listened to the lyrics. I think the song is just about accepting death and not being afraid of it. Like I was picking up themes of making the best of what you have currently, because there's no like guaranteed afterlife. You don't know, you're not owed the rest of your life. You're not owed anything. You just have now, and you need to do whatever you can to, I guess, make your life good, make the people's lives around you good, to just do what you can with your life while you have it.
Yeah, so there are two themes on this album. I did kind of look into some of the artist notes and stuff because I mean I really like this album and I thought it was interesting. But I saw around the time of this album's writing, Keith's wife was having like life-threatening pregnancy issues. So she was pregnant with his daughter, and she was having some medical conditions that were complicating things. So a lot of this album was written about his experiences dealing with that, and with that kind of lens overlaid on that, this song, to me at least, seemed like it was about Keith being willing to sacrifice literally everything he had to ensure that his wife and daughter survived the experience so far, or going so far as to like steal from the Reaper, he says, or breaking into the Reaper's locker or something like that, and breaking into heaven to like get what was his back. Like he's ready to die for these people, because it's the second main theme of this album that I got is kind of like that this changed him as a person, for better / worse. We'll talk about that. But this album is a big turning point in his life, I think, in many different aspects. And one of those is that like now he has a daughter on the way, and he has a wife that he loves, and he's ready to like throw it all away and do literally anything to make sure that they survive these complications.
Well, hell yeah, Keith Buckley. I mean, not that happened, but because that's I definitely got themes of this being a turning point on the album. So
yeah, I mean, I guess just for full context, this album also, like, maybe not this album, but the experience of having his daughter and everything being in kind of jeopardy is the main like underlying change of this album. Whereas previously he was like an alcoholic and he had a lot of like drug issues and stuff, and like experiencing those things kind of made him stop living that life. And so a lot of this album is him kind of processing what that means for him going forward.
Well, hopefully he doesn't run into any glitches on his path to, I guess, continued path to sobriety to fatherhood.
Yeah, which is something that you've experienced, kind of.
I kind of had a similar reaction, but it wasn't as, I was never in as dire of a situation, I would imagine, as Keith probably was.
And I wouldn't say that you were an alcoholic per se.
Exactly. Like I cleaned my act up.
Yeah.
In a pretty decent,
all good fathers would do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally talked over your excellent segue. Track number 2 is Glitches.
This one, dude. So this is where you really get that punky feel in the intro. They got the pick scrape and then the drums, and it just hits you with even more aggression. It's just turned even more up at the beginning of this. It has like, I guess, a lot of more, I guess, typical rock sounds, but it's got the punk, the metal, I guess whatever that southern groove is that they kind of have going through their music. It's just all combined, and it just punches you right in the fucking face. This is definitely a mosh song. Somebody would be throwing hands to this song at a concert.
That's me. Like, I don't know, that was the biggest takeaway I think this week for me, is that like I miss live music. I miss going to concerts. And B, I just like listening to this just makes me want to punch someone in the face and just like get out there. And I think at one point I literally like wrote that I was feeling like I was just like riding on a barrier somewhere that's just ready to like push it down and like open up a giant mosh pit on the other side of some like police line or something. It's so like energetic and aggressive. I love it.
Yeah, I love it too. Like aggression is something that when done right, I think is one of the best emotions to get through in music, because there's so much like metal out there that's
it feels fake.
Yeah, and it feels
it's kind of how, not to just diminish a whole genre, but a lot of modern country music, right? It feels like it's written from a place that isn't genuine, where they're just writing about things they know. So, and a lot of that I feel towards a lot of modern metal as well, just because it, like, I don't know, it seems trendy. And so people are cashing in on those trends and just like writing the same shit over and over again because it sells.
Yeah, and like you look back to, because it started in such an authentic place. People who you could write about anything with, whether it be horror movies or your love of like crazy, extreme, gory situations that you couldn't otherwise get out, or just actual pure anger. Or just, I mean, in a lot of punks' cases, bashing against the man.
Yeah.
Like just
Rage Against the Machine, you know?
Raging against the machine. And now it's like everybody just distilled those values down to one thing, and it's like they're just feeding a little dropper to every band that's like, okay, here's your distilled, cheesy sounding, vague anger that you can throw over some riffs. And it's
with some straw man to government to go against without actually inciting a riot or anything.
You know? Yeah, because you don't want to make people think too much. You don't want to make people feel too much. Because then they might actually do things.
Yeah, and this album makes me want to do things. Granted, not necessarily in a political way. Just like it energizes me, and I love that about this album. Yeah. Lyrically, this one was a bit harder for me to chew on and to kind of get a meaning out of. But I think what's clearest to me is that this seems like Keith had abandoned his past life in order to find some sort of clarity on his situation with his wife and daughter being jeopardized or whatever. And the song seems to acknowledge that even though he had changed, the world around him had not. Just because he was able to find something new within himself, when he kind of returned to his old life or returned to the world, he realized that nothing had really changed and the world was still a chaotic mess, which is both terrifying and relieving to him. It seems like he knows that like he's not in control of everything. And so part of that is relieving, and that like it removes the burden from him. But there's also this kind of unsettling, begrudging, like, I'm not in control. So whatever happens, I'm just here experiencing and I can't do anything about it.
I took the not in control part more to mean, I guess, that he was worried he was going to fall back into whatever habits he used to have. Like, I don't know, still the same old devils makes me think of, and he was an alcoholic and is worried that he could get back there. Like, he's still fighting the same battles, but he's worked at it, but there's always the voice in the back of your head that's like, you can just go back. Like, you can just do it again.
Yeah, but I think that's an equally valid interpretation, because again, that is another one of the big themes on this album, is his kind of struggle and fight against his old life.
Well, that's very nice. We're both valid in our own ways.
People.
Valid people.
I give that a rating of C+. No, you know what? C++. It's the most lukewarm of fuzzy wuzzy acceptance.
Wouldn't that just be like a B-, a C++?
No, that's C++ is just under a B-. You know, well, it's breaking down like a 10-point scale into a 100-point scale. You know. Okay,
I got you. See, I love the 10-point scale, but I guess my love of the 10-point scale will get me killed, so I have to move to this 100-point scale.
Perfect. Track number 3, C++, in parentheses, love will get you killed. It's a subtitle kind of thing.
One thing I do, I don't know what it is. Subtitle. There we go. Subtitle. That's already a thing.
Alternate.
A lot of these songs are like under 3 minutes long. And that is another, they fit so much aggression into those 3 minutes where it's just like, they're like, okay, we could spread this over 6 minutes and make it like a journey. But no, we're just going to like fucking beat the shit out of you for 3 minutes. Because this song, the bass is real rumbly here at the beginning. It doesn't sound like as much of, I guess, a hardcore sound as the previous two songs. The vocals are less harsh while the sound is bigger. It's not necessarily as heavy. Like, there were parts in the previous two songs where I used bare in my notes, but it's not actually bare. It's just not, you're not surrounded by sound. It's the sounds that are hitting you are just like hitting you, but you can still,
like distilled. It's like pure in a way.
Yeah. Like, it's not surrounding. It's just direct, I guess. And this one, it sounds more like a hard rock, kind of post rock song. And it reminds me of a band that I don't know if I ever talked to you about, called Maylene and the Sons of Disaster. I'm pretty sure I had mentioned them at some point, because I
does not sound familiar.
Okay. I was recently, I guess I got like 100 gigs of my old music off of my parents' computer, and that band was on there. It had Dallas Taylor from another band. I don't remember what other band Dallas Taylor. It was a huge, like, I guess, screamo type band, but he did like a southern metal type band that I liked a lot more, and this kind of reminded me of that. Which
put it on the list, because I really enjoy this track. Like I know this track and several others on the track really just like accent the fact that like they use so many different riffs and they transition between sections of each of their songs. And again, these songs are 3 minutes max most of the time, and they fit so much riffage in each one, and they transition expertly between them. Like a lot of times it feels like they just wrote a bunch of riffs separately and then tried to weave them together, but it's not hastily like jury rigged and duct taped together. It feels like incredible to hear the transitions between them, especially in this one. And there's like a post chorus kind of section where he screams, "The sun is out cold." I love the flow and the groove to that section. I don't know. There's so much groove in this album. I love it.
There's a ton of groove, man. And I was going to point that section out because, man, his voice.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, even when he's not like doing the full on screaming, it's still, there's just such a power to it.
Right.
And man, it's nice.
He fucking gets it.
There was because I do remember on the Guitar Hero game, whatever one that I heard this song from, they specifically called out Keith Buckley in one of the loading screens.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reason. Them calling him out is what made me want to look them up at the time, because I was like, well, they're mentioning him by name. He must be pretty cool. Yeah. And if the music would have sounded more like this, I think it would have caught on earlier with me.
Yeah, and again, this is kind of like, this is a transition for him as a person, but I think some of the notes I saw later on in the album, he kind of said that they've never done a song as long as the longest track on this album, which is like 5 minutes, and he wanted the band, he kind of just like let the band go, because I mean, he was dealing with his wife and his daughter and stuff, so he was like, just he wasn't, I guess, as involved in the musical section of it, but he wanted them to kind of push themselves, or they felt like they needed to kind of push themselves out of their kind of typical sound. So I do think this album is kind of an outlier on that aspect.
The lyrics on this one seem to be more direct in the almost losing, like, I guess, the childbirth complications or the pregnancy complications that his wife was having. C++, I don't entirely know where the C++ part comes from. I know it's a coding language, programming language.
I'm not sure, because I mean the last track was called Glitches, so I'm wondering if there is some sort of meaning there. But the only thing I could think of within the context of the song was that it was kind of a fun short way to say critical care center, which would be CCC. So it just said C++. I don't know if that's actually like factual or not actually factual. I don't like the way that sounds, but yeah, that's the best that I got out of it.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was just like a vague thing that maybe he didn't understand, because it does seem like he's like, I don't know, I gotta plead with your machines, I'm at the feet of your machines. Yeah. It makes me think like he's just like pleading to stuff that he can't control again, like he's in, I don't know, C++ machines. Computers.
Programming. Yeah,
fake computer words.
I actually saw a quote from this song that I actually really liked. It's a much longer quote, but I kind of pulled a section of it out so it didn't ramble too long. But he said, "The point of the song is that death is always an option. That's what I was thinking when I was writing the lyrics. We don't have to do this if we don't want to. There is another option. There's always a way out." And I feel like saying that is so taboo. People always say, "Oh my God, no, you have to survive through everything. You have to do everything possible to survive." And I don't feel that way sometimes. You got to keep going. You just got to keep going. I feel like sometimes that might be really bad advice. That's what end quote, I suppose. And that, like, I don't know, it's so good.
Yeah.
I agree with that 100%. And maybe that's just because I'm pessimistic and negative, but like that, I think in context of this song, he's coming to acceptance that there's a very real possibility that his wife could die and that it's out of his hands and there's nothing he can do about it, which again isn't necessarily a bad thing. He's ready to face that possibility, But there's also some lyrics in here that kind of make me think he doesn't really want that outcome, despite the fact that he's accepting it could happen. He's still trying to stay positive. He's still looking for anything. He's ready to like say like, look, if things are going to work out, I'm totally down for that, because that's obviously the better result. But he's not just saying like, oh no matter what happens, like you have to survive kind of a thing, because there's a very real possibility that's not going to be the outcome.
Yeah, like, and to speak even more to his quote, like, I don't know, saying that you have to pull through whatever, I feel like that's pretty damaging, especially not only for him or for his wife, I guess, to have that sentiment pushed upon her whenever she's going through, I'm guessing, just some insane complications.
I didn't look into like what was actually going on. I didn't feel the need to, but yeah, it could not have been pleasant. But
then also for him after the fact, like if that outcome were to happen and somebody's just like, you just got to pull through, man. And he's like, like, that's not what you want to hear. Like,
for sure. Because it's just death is a tricky thing. And that was another part of I think that quote. He just talked about how like people are so afraid of death and afraid of talking about death, and he kind of like wanted to normalize that throughout this album, just kind of opening the door. If people were like reading into the lyrics and understanding what he was going through, that maybe it would just open the door for a more like honest, I guess, discussion about death and why it shouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, even though like it's so ingrained in society that like death is the worst possible outcome.
I mean, it's not a great outcome, but I don't think it's the worst. Keith Buckley, if you ever want to come on the show and talk about the reality of death, I mean, we could be here for 2 summers, but like
nice. Track number 4, 2 summers. Joey's fucking expertly weaving it in. This one, whereas the last one was a bit more melodic and it wasn't nearly as energetic. This one you can immediately just feel the energy building back up with this pounding kick drum. The toms come in and the guitars knock down the door to bring in the song. The pre-chorus kind of fakes you out a bit, at least in my experience, because I already knew where the song was going. There's like a pre-chorus, but it doesn't go into the chorus. It kind of fakes you out and goes into another verse and then gets to the chorus. And boy, that chorus, I love the vocal melody in the song of the chorus, the groove of the band. It's so like warm. It's buttery smooth. I love everything about the chorus on this one. And then there's a cowbell that comes in and resets the momentum, which is kind of fun.
Hell yeah.
And then the outro of the song, there's like an outro section. Again, they have so many different sections of their songs, and they're not necessarily like cleanly like pieced, but they're all transitioned masterfully. But the outro is just fucking perfect, and it just, there's so many good riffs. I love it.
Dude, yeah, I love the outro. It is just great. Like, it completely changes up the song. Like, the beat, the tempo, or maybe not even the tempo, but the feel. Like, it's like listening to a song at full speed and then with like a halftime feel type difference.
Yeah.
But the beginning of this song, it sounds like something I want to listen to while I'm like driving way too fast.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I just want to be like just
I definitely listened to this album on the last day of my road trip for sure.
Hell yeah. It's so powerful, and it just keeps me on my toes, and it makes me want to move real fast.
Yeah, because I mean the music does it's like it's got some like speed and thrash metal like roots in it, and it just, they fucking kill it with the energy of all of this album pretty much.
So lyrically, I couldn't quite pin this one down, other than just the general feeling that it was about growing up and remembering past mistakes, and if they're still affecting your life, kind of like it put me in a thought of thinking he was writing it about his life, I guess, before he had his daughter, and just remembering that time, and if there's any baggage that comes with that, or the people from that point in his life, I guess, and just having to deal with those relationships or repercussions from that time.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what I got out of it. That it's him, where he's kind of acknowledging his past, but he's running from it in some aspects, where he's saying like, I was this person kind of. I hopped from party to party, from person to person, and never really like stuck with anything. And now he's kind of older and wiser and trying to get his shit in order, but there's still like some fallout of that past life that's kind of haunting him.
Yeah, sometimes you can do an awful lot of damage with your past life with a few mistakes, but
and with your future life if you have a crystal ball. But
yeah,
I ain't in a crystal ball. I am, however, going to move on to track number 5 that you segued awful lot.
Dude, you segued with a lyric into my segue for the next song. How'd you do that?
I just really like the line where he says, "I ain't in your crystal ball," so I wanted to say it.
Okay, that sounds right. Track 5, awful lot.
Crystal ball.
Dude, are you Keith Buckley?
I am. That's why I wanted this promo from my album that came out 5 years ago.
Hell yeah.
Track number 5, awful lot. This one starts off with some ripping drum fills that kind of lead in, and it maintains this intense energy from the last track. The chorus hits and he screams "barbarians." I just love that section. The music perfectly captures that kind of like driving war beast feel kind of a thing. And then the drums and the bass, they cut out and they leave the guitar to just ride on like a high note while Keith repeats the refrain, and then the band comes back in. There's just some excellent riffage again, like always. And then there's kind of an interesting outro. This isn't really one of my favorite tracks on the album. This might be my least favorite one if I had to pick one. I still like it. But there's an outro in it that just out of nowhere, it kind of like cuts to this like detuned piano that's maybe like playing on like an old VHS tape kind of a thing. And I thought that was a very interesting and out of the blue transition for this album.
Yeah, this is a cool song. I feel like I've heard the end of it before. That like the last maybe minute of the song, that why can't it be the year 2000? I want to live in the year 2000.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what it is about it. I'm sure I haven't heard it, but I feel like I have.
I feel like I have, but I've also listened to this album a lot in the past couple of years. But even that, it definitely feels that kind of like that nostalgic, kind of like maybe like Tony Hawk kind of punk energy, punk rock, indie rock kind of thing going on with it.
Maybe it was on a Tony Hawk game set. No, wait, that wouldn't work. I was about to say set in 2017, but
they had music from the future when they released it.
Whoa, man,
that would blow my mind. Yeah, I don't know what it is. It definitely like maybe. I feel like it was almost intentional because again, he's saying, "Why can't it be the year 2000? I want to live in the year 2000," kind of a thing. So he's like, maybe they just like picked some common riffage from those times and like, okay, we're gonna fit this in. We're gonna write like an early 2000s riff to kind of help drive the point home that like this is the era that we're trying to capture.
Well, it worked, and I can't figure out what this song is about, honestly, and I know it should be clear, but I think it's kind of an extension of the last song where it's realizing like the relationships with people in the past are gone, like they were only there for the good times, but I can't definitively say. What are your input?
I feel like this is kind of continuing the theme of him changing from the past self, like you mentioned, but it almost feels like he's kind of like missing the past life a little bit. Because I mean, he talks like he says, "We used to talk to God with acid on our tongues. We were divine when we were drunk." So like clearly he's talking about his like former life partying and stuff with a bunch of people. And then he cuts to like the barbarian section, and he's kind of like maybe talking down to those people. And I think I read, I don't know if it was in an annotation or if it was an official quote or anything, but it seemed like he was referring to his friends that are still in that kind of world that don't respect his choice to change. Or maybe he just fears that because he's becoming sober, he's not going to have those people to kind of back him up. And he feels like, and I guess this is maybe spoilers for later tracks, but he feels like so much of his identity was tied up in that kind of lifestyle, and that's who he was. So there's this kind of fear of leaving that behind.
Yeah, that's a bad time whenever your identity gets into your vices and they become entwined. Like,
yeah, which is very much what happened, and again, we'll get to that in later songs. I think he talks more about that, or at least the notes or the interviews that Genius cited were talking a bit more about that. But I don't know how to segue this one.
Well, it's fine.
I was just kind of rambling, trying to make something happen, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to join your stupid segue cult, anyways. So
nice. Track number 6. I didn't want to join your stupid cult anyway. Is the track title.
This one. No, this one. This one right here. This hits.
Next verse though.
This next track right here though. It hits the more punk energy. Like it hits back, and I really like it. Like when the guitar cuts out and it's just the bass and drums about 30 seconds in, it just feels, something about it feels super punk, and it's just got some real good energy. And you know, this was where the album started selling me even more. Not that I wasn't sold immediately, but hearing this song, I was like, you know what? Okay. Yeah, I think I like that. I think I like this more.
This is one of my favorite tracks on the album.
Well, hell yeah. Ain't that just super cool?
It's just so good. It's so good. It's got a lot of like fun sections again, with like there's like a bridge section that slows things down and then it like builds back up with these like blast beats and shit, and it has this big breakdown at the end, and it's just like, I don't know, the energy in this track is so unreal. And I noted here that like I want to be at a live show rocking the fuck out to this, because it has that kind of energy for me.
One day, Jeremy. One day.
I don't know, man. Not with the way things keep happening. Concerts keep getting postponed and moved because people are dying and being stupid.
Both of those things.
Yeah, separately, but also not
together. Yeah. One is causing the other.
Yeah. But this one, I feel like, I don't know, a lot of these songs are super short and I don't notice it. But this one, I kind of feel like just as quickly as the song started, it's ended. And I want it to be longer because I really like the song.
But then you can just listen to it again. And,
it's true.
You know, oh, wait. Lyrics.
You were trying to segue.
I was trying to
segue.
No, this song, it's about sobriety. He's starting to get sober and he's realizing that being a drunk is never what he wanted, so it's lost its appeal. Is that right, Jeremy?
Yeah, I kind of took it as more of like a satire, but yeah, that's basically what it is. Like, I mean, the song's called I Didn't Want to Join Your Stupid Cult Anyway, and it felt like it was just him being satirical about his journey to sobriety. Like he's kind of brainwashing himself to be a better person. Yeah. Kind of a thing. And with the last kind of section of the song, whoops, what did I do in my notes?
What did you do in your notes?
Not for the same thing. But from the last song where he says like, I want to live in the year 2000, it seems like he really does miss that kind of old rock and roll lifestyle, despite being kind of committed to cleaning up his act for his wife and daughter. So I think that some of it was maybe like tongue in cheek about saying like sobriety was a cult kind of a thing.
I mean, you could say that about just like anything. It's just some cults are promote a healthy lifestyle, and some.
There you go. Everything is cults. It's cults all the way down, and it always remembers.
Hell yeah! There we go. I couldn't have done it, but you did it.
I mean, it wasn't a clean segue.
Well, you know, you did it better than I could, because track number 6. Track number 7, it remembers.
Here we go again.
I can't remember what track number we're on.
Nice. Track 7, It Remembers, featuring Brendan Urie.
See, that was a complete surprise, because Spotify does not list a featured artist at all. And then like the third verse came in and I was just like, wait a second.
Yeah, buddy.
I know that guy.
That's a voice I've heard.
He's a very good singer too. So, I mean, like, I'm super glad he's here. And I don't remember if it was around 2016, but he did kind of preview some metal stuff a few years back.
I think that was more recent, but yeah.
More recent. Okay. Well, he's good at it. Keith Buckley is a little bit better at it, but you know.
I agree. I agree completely on this track. I don't know. So this one, it kind of starts with this almost Money sounding lick, like Pink Floyd's Money.
Yeah.
With it, but the guitar kind of leads off the start of the song. It's kind of slower and methodical than a lot of the more fast, intense songs on the album. I really like the play with the rhythm that they have with that kind of lead riff, because sometimes they like hesitate and they let the note kind of float for a second before landing, which kind of gives it almost a drunken feel. But I don't know, it's a really cool effect, I think. I really like the pre-chorus of the song, and it gets stuck in my head all the fucking time. Where he like he's singing "I Want Oblivion" all the time, just over and over. Like, I don't know why that gets stuck in my head all the fucking time.
It's catchy.
It is very catchy. This is not the catchiest song on the album, I don't think. There is one later that I think I call out as being the catchiest, but that part does get stuck in my head. But yeah, Brennan Urie comes in. He sings a few lines for the chorus, which, I don't know, it's not super out of place necessarily, but it definitely feels notably different from hearing Keith singing. And it kind of like, I don't know, it doesn't rub me the wrong way. It just, I feel like it would have been better if it was just Keith singing.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Brendan Urie's vocals. I'm not a huge like Panic at the Disco fan or anything.
Yeah.
But like, I like his vocal style. He's an amazing singer. But yeah, it was kind of just, maybe it's because I wasn't expecting it, because I had no warning. But I was just kind of like, what? What's happening here?
Yeah, and he does, like, they come back in, and I don't know if it's a duet or if it's just layered differently, but Brennan Urie does sing later, and it feels better because there's just like a bunch of layers, and there's like a guitar wailing in the background. It's just, I don't know, it fits a lot better. But for the first chorus that I guess he sings, I don't know, it sneaks up on me.
Well, you know what else sneaks up on me? The drums on this track, because I like the drums. The drums are good, and I feel like they should get more credit, because
for sure,
a lot of the transitions between riffs and stuff, I feel like, are made easier because of the drums. Like,
yeah, there's a lot of drum fills in this album that go, they're so, like, this is the thing, and I noticed this about the album when I was listening to it, is like every time I would notice the drums, they're like, man, he's fucking getting it. But I never really like called out the drums in my notes, because it was just like, they're so smooth and they just blend everything so perfectly that like it's like a roadie that's just like running around in the back, just like cleaning up everything and making everything happen, that you don't even see it, you don't even notice it. And I think that's a credit to the drummer.
Yeah, like, if you're good at your job, nobody's gonna notice you type deal.
Yeah.
I know that feeling. I was in technical theater in high school. I was behind the curtain.
What a fucking nerd.
I mean, I guess I can't. I was in it for like a total of like a year and a half, because I kept getting kicked out. But but I was in it whenever I could be. So there was that.
Why are you getting kicked out, Joey?
Because of a lot of stupid things, you know.
You a misbehaving young child?
I was definitely not a behaving young child. I'll say that.
But yeah, lyrically, this one kind of seemed, at least to me, to cement the idea that he misses his old life, where he's kind of like talking about the struggle to exist sober, because it affects every aspect of his life, being sober, and it makes him kind of feel isolated and alone without having some like a social crutch, I suppose, to help him fit in.
Yeah, that's definitely a tough deal whenever you get so wrapped up in it, and then like everybody you associate with is kind of like that. So to not only quit something that you're like addicted to, whether it be mentally or physically, you then also have to cut out your whole social circle.
Right. You're basically becoming an outcast.
It's like, man, that's even if you want to give up some whatever substance, it's like, well, guess I'm not gonna isolate myself, so I got to keep doing this.
Yeah, and it's like even further, because you've kind of, at least in his case, he had been an alcoholic for like 20 years. And he'd been in that scene for like 20 years, cutting that out. Like, he not only didn't have his old friends, but he wasn't really equipped to make new friends either, because he never really had to do that without the use of alcohol and drugs to kind of make things easier. Social lubricants, we'll say, to make it easier to meet people and to hang out with people. So he kind of like, I don't know, he talks a lot about being alone, and that comes from the fact that like he finds it hard to integrate into quote unquote normal society, because he never learned how to do that without drugs and alcohol involved.
Man, fuck society.
Fuck them. Let's all just get wasted and high all the time.
Hell yeah. Let's until all our petals fall off like some sort of dying flower.
There it is. Track number 8. Pedal.
Yeah, pedal.
Well, just segue.
Yeah, I tried, I just tried at least a little bit.
I'm upping your C++ to a B-.
Awesome. That seems like it'd be worse than C++. But
well, it's not.
Well, the metalcore sound is back, at least for me, because I know genres are a wishy-washy thing between the two of us.
We don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah, I literally have no clue what I'm talking about. I just say things and hope they sound good. But this song, it sounds like super frantic to start off. The vocals are real harsh on this one. Like a lot of, this is where I really noted like the screaming, but not in a metal screaming way. Just like
Yeah.
he's actually just screaming because he's just so like into it. And the music is all over the place. And I feel like that it just really hits home with the lyrics and just the vocal performance on this song. It really makes it for me.
Yeah, I agree. It kind of like it brings all of the energy that it needed to within itself, but also kind of making up for the prior track not having as much of that energy. And it just kind of like it fucking plows through. And even like there's like a kind of an ominous contemplative section towards the middle of the song, but even that's kind of like interrupted spontaneously with some like chugging noisy guitars that just kind of like break into the calm of it during that. And it's just like, I don't know, the song kind of feels one note and less progressive than a lot of the other tracks, but I think it works perfectly just because it's so like it's just this ball of energy amidst the otherwise already like intense but more progressive and more changing kind of aspects of the rest of the album.
Yeah, that's the thing whenever you are doing a lot like progressive and using a lot of different sounds, you can have a song or two that is one note or just the same throughout, and it's not bad because you're not doing it all the time. But it's just whenever you get into albums that are like the whole thing sounds like one thing, you're like, why am I doing this to myself?
Yeah. Speaking of why am I doing this to myself, the lyrics.
Oh god,
this one, like, I don't know, this one feels like the most manic depressive song I've ever heard, where he's just like he's screaming so much about how terrible his life is and how nothing feels meaningful, and the only solution that he keeps coming back to is killing himself so he doesn't have to deal with life and the negativity that he's kind of experienced. At least that's what I got from it.
That's pretty much what I got from it, but I just thought it was in a context because of the severe complications, I guess, with his wife and his daughter. Like, I'm guessing this was him spitting out a shit ton of like anger and just sadness, all of his feelings into one song, because that's kind of what I got, like that he couldn't save someone else. I don't know if this is some alternate reality where the worst possible outcome happened.
Yeah.
But it just seemed like he was upset that he couldn't do all he could to save someone else. And so he was just like, fuck it, I'm out. Like, I'm done with this shit. It's what's the point?
Yeah. This song also has a Macbeth reference.
What?
Which I guess kind of leads back to the him being an English major. The whole the ending section where he repeats "untimely ripped into this world, I was born again as a girl." Untimely ripped is the wording that is used in Macbeth to describe being ripped from his mother's womb or whatever.
Well, I've never read or seen Macbeth, so
me either. But I saw that in the Genius notes, and I thought it was kind of interesting. So like clearly Keith Buckley knows he knows things about books and literature, and maybe that's why he's such a great lyricist and screamy guy.
Yeah, I guess he came to music because it pays better than being a lyricist. Because I mean, even in your career, the coin has a say in what you end up doing.
God damn, Joey, flawless.
I'm trying, man.
Track number 9, the coin has a say. You're a B++ now.
Oh my god, am I gonna make it all the way to A?
We'll find out.
But next time on Dragon Ball Z.
You're powering up. You're gonna get A++, and it's not gonna be enough because where do you go from A++? It has to be A+++, and then plus, and it's just that's Dragon Ball Z for you.
Hell yeah!
Just keep adding new pluses, new pluses.
SSBM plus whatever.
Exactly. But the coin has to say, track number 9. This one just comes in loud and intense and aggressive as a lot of the tracks do. And at this point, I was kind of like doubting myself on how you'd feel about this. And I wrote like, I can definitely see how somebody could say that it all sounds the same, but I don't think it's a bad thing at all because there's so much like fresh riffage that uses the same sounding instruments, so it doesn't really get old for me. And with the intensity of the music and how quickly the songs come and go, it feels like it's more cohesive with the sameness, I guess. So like I don't know. I was just thinking about the general tone and sound of their songs and how it could maybe be perceived that it all sounds the same, but I don't feel that way just because there's so many great riffs.
Hell yeah, there are. The riffage is real, especially on the second half of the album, I think. Like, it gets, as the album goes on, I guess I won't discount the first half, but as the album goes on, I feel like the riffage gets even better. But maybe that's just me. I think I could see how people who don't listen to a lot of like rock or metal, like if there's people out there who only listen to like pop, rap, R&B, country, like never get into more modern rock, metal. I could see how it could all sound the same if you don't really know what you're listening to.
Right.
But man, I think they keep it just about as fresh as they possibly can with 3-minute song times, especially.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of a boon because like the tracks that come in, they do their thing, they leave, and it's just that fast. Like it doesn't feel like they're harping on the same riff too long.
You know, this album made me think that at some point in the future, I'm gonna have to just pick a bad album so we can both just shit on it, because I feel like we've been having some good picks lately.
Yeah, that's been good.
And man, like I just got to pick a shitty album for us both to just shit on.
Maybe we'll both declare now that we're gonna pick a shitty album before the end of the year.
Hell yeah, let's do that. I'm virtually shaking your hand right now.
Virtually shaking, of course. But yeah, there's kind of a nice guitar solo section in this one, even like a kind of spoken word section in it. There's a big slowdown before the final section that just it fits perfectly, and then it kind of like rebuilds itself before the song just kind of like ends and leaves you hanging. Lyrically, this one seemed more to be a more coherent telling of his experiences of sobriety, where it seems like he doesn't feel like he's changed, just that he's been like concealing his past instead of building a future, kind of a thing, where he feels like he's not himself and he sees other people looking at him like he's some reformed man, and it kind of makes him feel like there's grand expectations from him being sober when really he just feels empty inside because it was such a crutch to have.
Yeah, I like the last, I guess it's a verse, I don't know, just the last portion of this song really hits it, like the realization that who you've been for so long is now, it has to be gone. Just like where he says, I can't go back to what I was, Metallica without the drugs, a faith healer without the plant, there's no home for a hollow man. Like the feeling that the drugs or the alcohol or whatever, it was him this whole time, and that now he's like a sham without it, and he's just like, I can't, what do I do? Like I'm not I'm not me anymore, I guess. Right. And like coming to terms with that.
Yeah, and to further that, kind of just one line before where you started reading, it says guided only by a sickness, not a purpose, which is horrifying to think of from my perspective. Just like, not that I'm afraid of not having purpose, I'm pretty nihilistic when it comes to that shit, but just like being guided by a substance and then having that taken away has got to be like the worst feeling in the world. Just not having something to help guide you when you've been so reliant on it.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, quitting cigarettes was hard enough. I can only imagine, like, to live the rock and roll lifestyle for like 15, 20 years and then just be like, well, guess it's gone now.
Yeah,
like,
there's nothing else there. I've worshipped, meth, alcohol, heroin. I had a religion of speed that I was a priest of, and now I've been kicked out of the clergy, per se.
Hell yeah. Track 10, Religion of Speed. That's how I'm going to read this song title from now on. Not Religion of Speed, like go fast. Religion of Speed, like just a church full of people just fucking running around.
Only way I could think to get in there.
Hey, it worked. It was nice. This one is the long one that you were talking about, the long song.
Yes.
Like, it's the longest song they've ever done. And it starts out with some super cool, fast acoustic, followed by some heavy guitar. The acoustic, I like the mix up with the acoustic. It's nice, even if it is short-lived. Well, I was embellishing because I'm remembering it in my head now. Like, I like just the feeling of hearing it after having heard so much aggression. Where it's short-lived, but it's a nice reprieve, I guess.
This song is not short-lived. This is the longest one on the album.
The acoustic part of the of the song.
That's true. There's a lot of like progression in this track, and I think this one being 5 minutes kind of allows itself to have more of those like fun key changes and fun riffs and stuff, which is great. I really like the sound of the chorus on this one as well. the song kind of slows down to a stop at like the 3.5 minute mark, and it just like leaves the guitar and the vocals, and then it kind of like gets reinforced by these triumphant, like almost marching band-esque licks that kind of come like the bump 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 kind of a thing that happens, which is, it's kind of fun change up from the normal riffage on this album. Despite it being the longest track, it certainly doesn't feel any longer than the other tracks do to me.
Yeah, I was not at all sitting through this song thinking, oh, when's this over?
Right.
How dare they write a song that is 5 minutes long and appropriately changes sounds throughout.
Yeah, it's definitely the prog song, I suppose, of the album, but even it's not really prog rock. It's just, it progresses and it's cool.
Yeah, it's not progressive, it progresses.
Which makes it progressive, right?
No. No.
Lyrically, though, to me, this one seems like a big like carpe diem kind of track about kind of getting the most of your life while you can, and leaving a legacy that'll affect generations, and not letting anything hold you back, and kind of acknowledging that like everybody dies, but not everybody lives. So kind of make that opportunity for yourself and just fucking go out and live.
Yeah, definitely. It had a very uplifting message, which with him wanting to talk about the reality of death, I feel like I've always felt like that's kind of where people don't want to talk about it. It's, if you can just really talk about it, it's kind of one of the most motivating factors of life. Like, even if you don't think you're currently making a difference doing whatever you're doing, as long as you're trying, just don't give up, because you can't even try when you're dead. So just while you have the time, don't think about how small what you're doing is. Don't think about, I'm not doing enough. Just do what you're doing and try to do it as well as you can, and try to do all that you can, because one day you're not going to be able to. And if you've done enough, or just whatever you did, the people around you are going to remember. That's how they're going to remember you. And you want to leave a good, lasting impression, I guess.
Hell yeah. That's the most inspirational thing we've ever said.
There should have been like trumpets behind. Are trumpets inspirational? I mean, I feel like they're more triumphant.
It depends on how you use them, because like taps is like a death song, like a dirge kind of thing.
Oh shit, yeah. Piano, there we go. Inspirational.
I mean, piano can be either way too. I feel like any instrument can be used in either way. That's what's cool about instruments and music.
A duplicate room across of another room that is just as real but not as brightly lit as.
Wow, I had no idea where you were going with that. I was looking at him like, what's he talking about? Is he doing it? Just as real but not as brightly lit is track number 11. Great segue, question mark. Let us know in the comments.
If it would have made sense, it would have been.
Yeah, this one, it feels like another like rocket powered car that just launches us straight into the sun with the energy on this one. The second section comes in, and the guitar groove in it is just so fucking good. I really like the riffage on this one, and I know I keep saying that, but it's true. They've fucking nailed. They've boiled down hot riffage to a science, and they've just fucking splattered it all over this fucking album. But yeah, the last section of this album as well, it just feels like I'm being smacked in the back of the head. It's just like just being forced to headbang, because it's just so like incredibly powerful.
What a great feeling. I haven't had, like, there's not many occasions in which I've had that feeling where you just notice yourself. Like, I mean, I'm not like sitting in my office just like fucking windmilling my head, hairless head.
I definitely do. Maybe not my office, but my living room, absolutely.
Oh, my living room, it's fucking no holds barred in there. But
that room is just as real, but not as brightly lit.
Exactly. That's, yeah, like the riffage is absolutely fucking real on this whole album, on this song. And man, this song, throughout most of it, is just speed and anger and personified, and it's great.
Feels good.
The lyrics, I don't know if this is just me trying to make a through line for lyrics at this point, but it seems to be talking about losing everything and just trying to find purpose in what you perceive as a meaningless life, I guess. It could be an alternate reality where he actually did lose his wife and daughter, or it could be, I guess, a reference to losing his control when it comes to his emotions or drinking.
I felt like it was kind of like about facing his past kind of a thing, where he feels like he's saying, like, you can't let your shadow follow you around and remind you that you fucked up. You have to use that reminder to make better decisions. Kind of like what you were saying in the past about dying being a good motivator. Like, use your past fuck ups as a motivator and make better decisions in your future again. And instead of being miserable because you fucked up, kind of turn that experience into an advantage, kind of thing. And I say that mostly, I think the line that stood out to me the most on that is nothing will change if you don't lead with your shadow. So that to me was just kind of like, okay, using your shadow, something that haunts you and follows you that you've done in the past, to kind of lead the way to help you make better decisions in the future.
What a nice line, man. And that's so true. You got to follow, I guess, your mistakes. You can't really learn without failings, even if you're just taking small steps, because they really add up over time. Like if you were to take like an inch step every day since 1977, just one a day, by now, I mean, you'd have moved miles.
You would have moved on to track number 12, perhaps.
Yeah, all the way there.
Which is titled 1977.
Yeah.
That was a good one. That was a good one. I heard it happen and I smiled like an idiot. And I was like, yep, that's a good one.
Well, I wish I could have seen your idiot smile, but I'm not there.
Indeed. This one has a pretty like Metallica-esque riff to it, I thought, and I really like it. The second riff that comes in is notably not Metallica-esque, and I also like it. There's a very like melodic lick in the pre-chorus section that catches me off guard, and guess what? I like it. And then the ending section of the song, where he's just screaming, stare at the sun, directly into the sun. I love it. There's so much energy and passion in it. It's fun. It's fun to scream along with.
Hell yeah, it is. And I'm glad you mentioned Metallica, because I described the opening of this song as a more metal version of Metallica.
Yeah, I feel like it might be intentional. I was thinking this, maybe I was looking too far into it, but even in the first section of lyrics, they say trapped under ice at fathomless depth, which trapped under ice is a Metallica thing. So, I feel like maybe it was intentional.
I mean, I'm sure Metallica's an influence on them.
Oh, for sure. I mean, they even mentioned in that other song, I think Religion of Speed, that it was like Metallica without the drugs.
Yeah. You know what? Maybe they are going for Metallica, but they do Metallica better than Metallica does. So.
That's a hot take, but I don't disagree.
See, I don't dislike Metallica, but I feel like they've been very hit or miss over early Metallica. Cool, great. Yeah. But then as time went on, it was like, what?
Yeah, I think they deserve the respect that they get for their older stuff, but I think they also deserve a lot of the criticism that they get for the newer stuff.
Yeah, because...
Not to say that I don't like their newer stuff. I kind of enjoy Hardwired Self-Destruct. That double album was pretty good in my opinion, but it's not the same thing as old Metallica.
Yeah, it'll never happen again. That was lightning captured in a bottle, and
they wrote the lightning.
Cliff Burton was still there, so.
Are you talking down about Robert Trujillo?
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 That was I think it's Trujillo. I don't know.
Yeah, that sounds more right.
I liked Robert Trujillo more in his other band. Whatever.
Fucking hipster.
No, it was... they did a cover of Fame. I can't remember what they were called. Like, it was like... Shit, that's going to bother me.
Well, you can look it up. I'll talk about the lyrics for 1997. This one, it felt like it was kind of a combination of the prior two tracks, kind of bringing both themes, I think, to a one cohesive kind of song, where there's this kind of energetic motivation for living up your life and not letting your past stop that. And instead of regretting your mistakes, you're kind of inspired by them to keep moving and to make something bigger instead of being held back by it.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I got. Like, you're never so far gone that you can't come back from it.
Yeah.
And you can always move forward from whatever point you are at currently.
Yeah, he says, I really like, he says, life isn't ours, we are property of life. So take what you can when you can while you can, kind of a thing, which is just a big like, fuck yeah, keep doing your thing.
Keep on doing it, man. And also, Robert Trujillo. He was in Suicidal Tendencies. That is not the band that I was thinking of, but I do like that band more than I like later era Metallica. Infectious Grooves is the band I was thinking of, and
this album has a lot of infectious grooves.
It does. It really does.
Maybe that was the through line that we needed all along. It was there. Metallica, infectious grooves. Every Time I Die, it's all the same.
Hell yeah, it is all the same. It's
track number 13, map change.
Man, whenever I'm playing Apex Legends and I get Kings Canyon, I think it's time for a map change.
No, it's not. Kings Canyon's the good one.
Yeah, but I couldn't remember the shitty one, so I had to say Kings Canyon.
Yeah, well, track number 13, map change, rounding out the end of the album. This one, it starts with some like amp feedback, and then quickly launches into a very like epic sounding ending track. This whole song is catchy as fuck. And this is one that I kind of alluded to earlier, and I always have parts of the song stuck in my head. And my favorite part is just where the song kind of breaks for a second. He says, "I assure you that hell is not a myth. We both vacation there." And he just screams it, and it's such a good like midsection to just break things up, and I love it. I love every section in this song. It's just it has so much punch. And then it kind of lets itself hang before the final chorus, and it just comes back with a perfect amount of weight. I honestly think this is like the perfect rock song for me. It's so like moody at points, it's hype at points, and it just like, I don't know, it fades out and just melts away to end the album. It's fucking great. I love the song.
Yeah, it really is a great showcase of the different sounds that they put on the album. It has that slower rock feel more towards the beginning, but then it also has that post-punk faster feel to it. And there's a lot of powerful, clean vocals on here that I really like as well, where he's spent a lot of the time with his super aggressive voice. He can still bring that power and aggression without the harshness. And I feel like this makes for a great ending track to the standard version of this album.
Did you listen to the bonus tracks?
I did. I didn't write any notes on them.
Okay, cool. But neither did I.
Okay, cool.
We're on the same page there.
We've stuck with the theme of doing just the regular standard track, so I was like, I'm going to take a risk and not write notes on these songs.
Well, it all paid off.
Hell yeah.
Me, lyrically, I actually wrote a lot for lyrics on this, and I'm not sure why. Maybe this is just general thoughts for the end of the album as well. But to me, the mood of the song is kind of one of mourning, but also clarity. It seems very final, like this is the end of the journey. And with that comes retrospection and hindsight that allows you to see the full picture. He's gone through hell. He's gone through the lowest of lows, and he feels like he's dragged his world, potentially his wife, down with him with all the shit that he's been through. And it's hard to see someone you care about dealing with that. So he's kind of acknowledging that from his wife's perspective, it could not have been easier for her. A, because she was the one that was physically in jeopardy, but seeing her husband kind of going through that shit definitely would not have helped. There is something redeeming, though, I think. Throughout his experience, he didn't give up. Like, the song is mostly in a negative light, but kind of pulling the positive out of it. He didn't give up. The storm came, the city was abandoned, is what he says, but he remained. He didn't run from the storm, even if it meant death. And I think there's some sort of like spiritual death that he experienced, or maybe just coming to terms with the death of his past life, kind of a thing. But I don't know. It feels like he's sinking because he destroyed part of himself or his past part. But from that came this album, and I'm fucking jazzed about it because it's a fucking great album. I think good comes from the negative, I guess, is to boil down everything I just rambled about.
Definitely. Like, this song, I feel like it does a great job of touching on every topic that this album talked about in general. Like, it's about realizing our place in the world and life, and that while we're small, the lives we live aren't small to the people that are around us. And that's why we have to keep fighting, keep going, keep trying, even if we feel like we can't, or like we lose part of ourselves, or if we feel like it's all pointless. We owe it to those we love and to ourselves to fight in whatever way we can, because like we had said previously, like, no matter where you are, you can always move forward. There's never so much of a wall in front of you that you can't find a way to the other side of it.
What a good message.
What a great message.
Good on you, Keith Buckley. I'm excited for your all's new album. See what happens with that.
I like the artwork on a lot of the singles.
I don't remember when that album's supposed to come out, but they do have a new album coming out this year. I think October sometime, maybe. I don't know. Every time I die, I'm a fan of this band. I've not looked back through their other music, which makes me a bad fan, I suppose, but I fucking love this album. I'm excited for the new one. What are we doing next week, though, Joey?
Next week? Okay, so it was kind of a toss-up, but I decided on an album that I didn't think we were going to be doing so soon, but I think it's time.
We're going on a journey.
We are going on a journey because this was supposed to be part of a journey, and I was like, fuck it, you know what we're doing? We're doing it. We're ripping the cord. And maybe this is going to be a bunch of albums that you think are absolute shit. So
maybe you don't have to try so hard at all.
Yeah, because next week we're listening to an album by Mischief Brew, and the album is called Songs from Under the Sink. So
Under the Sink.
Under the Sink. It's
I can't not make that joke. I'm sorry.
Well, we're going to be hearing it a lot next week, folks. Folks.
Is that some forewarning that we're listening to folk music?
Yeah, it's on the verge of folk punk. I feel like I guess I'm not going to get into history now.
This is Joey's revenge for me calling this album punk. So I'll show you what punk is.
I mean, yeah, like the lead singer, Eric Peterson, rest in peace. He was in an awesome punk band called The Orphans previously, and it's now this is his more folky punk band.
Okay. I'm not gonna hate it just yet, but maybe I will next week. Maybe we'll come back and I'll hate it. Are we gonna do a couple albums afterwards in this vein as well, since this was originally supposed to be part of a journey?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to.
We'll think about it.
I'm gonna have to do some rearranging, but I think it's gonna be some of this, unless it's just like you pull the ripcord halfway through and you're like, I'm fucking out.
I fucking hate it. Hate it. No, I'm down to ride through hell. You know, Keith Buckley's given me the desire to just suck it up and deal with it. You know.
Well, cool. I like it.
So yeah, next week we're gonna be talking about Mischief Brew's Songs from Under the Sink. Under the Sink. You guys listen along. Let us know what you think of it. Let us know what you think. Keith Buckley, if you're out there and want to show up on our podcast, I'm down. We can talk about your new album maybe, or just death in general and your experience with that shit, because it's cool. It's refreshing to hear people talk about death in a not negative way and acceptance from that. But yeah, let us know what you guys think. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all the social medias, all of the platforms. Send us things, comments, likes, whatever. Just notice me, senpai, is what I'm getting at here.
Send us attention.
Send us attention and stay in our feedback loop.
Bye.